There are lots of other green shoots. Over 24 nations, including some in Asia, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean, elected women prime ministers or presidents. Women gained more power over their lives in many countries. Several Asian nations, including Malaysia, rapidly developed economically and dramatically improved living standards. So, of course, many of their people are still left behind. Once desperate China became able to feed and clothe its huge populations. And a Kentucky Fried Chicken outlet stands near the late communist leader Mao Zedong's mausoleum in Beijing. Now a Disney World will be built near Shanghai. Interesting. The Scandinavian nations, 100 years ago, among the poorest European societies, virtually eliminated poverty and have the world's highest living standards and the most social equality and gender equity. Nearly every industrialized nation, except for the United States, have found ways to achieve universal health care. According to the World Health Organization, we, the world's richest nation, rank 35th in the world in health care. And yet few Americans seem interested in borrowing ideas from those countries able to achieve far better public health for much less money. Can't learn anything from foreigners after all. Many nations, alas not including the US, signed agreements to improve the world, such as banning weapons of mass destruction, condemning genocide, and reducing ozone-destroying chemicals. Human rights groups around the world work courageously to promote civil liberties and the release of political prisoners. Thanks in part to global efforts, black majority rule came to South Africa. Local non-government organizations became an active presence in many nations, working for the rights of women, children, workers, peasants, consumers, and the environment. The growing information superhighway instantly linked millions of office or home computers with people, libraries, and information sources around the world. A few years ago, nobody would have predicted these changes. Who would have thunk it? By the way, our students shouldn't use that kind of thing. Just today, thanks to my office computer, I got email messages from Singapore and Australia, read a news digest from the BBC, was asked by a South Korean colleague to write a reference letter, downloaded a fascinating essay by a Dutch scholar, and here's the best news. Was asked by a Nigerian government official to let him secretly deposit millions of dollars in my bank account for his share of the wealth. Finally, after all these years of a meager faculty salary, a chance for vast riches. No doubt my faculty colleagues here in the audience are now insanely jealous of my good fortune and eating their hearts out. It's a history not only of cruelty and exploitation, but also of compassion, sacrifice, courage, and kindness. Provides some hope in navigating troubled times. Remembering when and where people behave magnificently may foster inspiration too. They've resolved the many challenges. The contemporary age offers many examples of inspiring people, and to name just 5, Nelson Mandela, of course, the South African freedom fighter, Aung San Suu Kyi, the Burmese democracy activist, Rosa Parks, the civil rights pioneer who refused to give up her bus seat on segregated bus to a white man. Václav Havel, who led the anti-communist struggle in Czechoslovakia. Muhammad Yunus, the founder of the micro-lending Grameen Bank in Bangladesh. Historians have tended to view the past as a stream with banks. Streams sometimes filled with people killing, stealing, shouting, doing things historians usually recorded. While on the banks, unnoticed, people built homes, made love. This is the pitching woo part of it. Raised children, sang songs, wrote poetry, exchanged products, greeted travelers, even whittled statues. We often ignore the banks for the stream, but what happened on the banks may be more reassuring. 4 centuries ago, William Shakespeare wrote that the past is prologue to the present. The study of world history allows us to ask questions about the global future because we understand the changing patterns of the global past, including the building of unique societies, the interactions of these societies through networks of exchange, and the great transitions that reshaped humanity, the agricultural revolution, urban, industrial, computer revolution, and so on. The contemporary age has been marked by a complex mix of unifying and dividing forces. People today cannot yet know with certainty where the path will lead, but they can help make it. In the 19th century, the British novelist Lewis Carroll posed the essential question in Through the Looking Glass. Lost and perplexed in wonderland, Alice asked the Cheshire Cat, "Would you tell me, please, which way I ought to go from here?" The enigmatic cat replied, "That depends a great deal on where you want to get to. Societies working together must chart the course into the future." Now, as I cross the border into retirement, I intend to keep on trucking, to remain active as a scholar and community member, to write books, to travel, to promote my particular causes, and maybe even do some more teaching. Always thinking globally while acting locally. Some of you know how much I admire Pete Seeger, the American folk singer and political activist who just turned 90. A man both deeply American and deeply internationalist. He once wrote a song reflecting back on a life well lived. I won't sing it. I didn't bring my banjo, but now that I'm old, my youth is all spent. My get up and go has got up and went. But in spite of it all, I'm able to grin and think of the places my get up has been. But Seeger, of course, has not rested on his laurels, and he still has enough get up and go, combined with a lot of spunk, to fight for a sustainable environment, social justice, and world peace. Like Pete Seeger, I expect to remain engaged with this interesting world and the study of its history, unless, of course, the world ends in 2012, or I get captured and spirited away to a galaxy far, far away by a UFO. Maybe I'll run into J. Allen Hynek if I get there. For UWGB, my final hope is that we will remain committed to promoting interdisciplinarity, exposing students to other cultures, and teaching world history, giving our students a foundation to flourish in the new millennium. One last point. As a Packer fan and shareholder, I have to think of Brett Favre and his agonizing retirement saga. On the off chance that this internet offer from Nigeria does not make me rich beyond my wildest dreams. If I change my mind and unretire, I promise not to sign with the Minnesota Vikings, not to trade me to the Detroit Lions, or heaven forbid, the Dallas Cowboys. Thank you very much.